Miss Poppy, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Ajeng. Everyone can hear my voice right now?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Okay. Um, right. Welcome back to the class for today. We have not been having a meeting for about a week. Okay, since last week I was not available. So, before we start, I will remind you that today is going to be our last study session, I guess, since we already have the early three parts. The first part was the listening part. The second one was about the reading. The third one, I explained to you about the writing part of the Ielts test. And today I'm going to teach you and tell you information about Ielts speaking session. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. Let me flip my screen fast. Okay. Is there any issue with the screen? Can you see the screen properly? Can everybody see the screen?
Yes,
And
Miss.
okay. Right. Thank you for your confirmation. All right. As I promised you earlier that today we're going to talk about IELTS speaking test. This is the part of IELTS test which gonna take you the least time overall, because in listening test you got I think around 30 minutes, and then reading test you got 60 minutes, and then writing test you got another 60 minutes, and on speaking test you only have at around more or less 15 minutes. Okay, so to jog your memory, to remind you again that last time I told you that the speaking tests usually are on the separate timeline or event than the other three tests. What I meant is that after you finish listening, reading, and writing in the same room when you're doing the test, you are going to do the speaking test later on afterwards, and then you're gonna be told to wait outside until your name being called. So it can happen on the same day, but not continually. Okay, so it's not immediately after you finish writing. That's the first one, the first option you have. So you can take the speaking test on the same day. But there is an instance that you're going to have to take the speaking test the day before or the day after you finished the other three tests. Okay, so this can happen like this because usually we invite the examiner, pengujinya. The examiner will come from either New Zealand or Australia, okay? Because the test is being held by ETS, and so it has international level of certification. So we're gonna have, of course, international level examiner or examiner. Okay, so we're gonna invite them to the test place, and usually on the same date you're gonna have around 15 people, I guess, around 15 people who are also taking the same test. That includes you. So you only have one examiner and 15 people taking the test. So it is impossible for this examiner to do all the speaking tests altogether, right? So in my place where I teach, they usually have this session on the same day, but after you do the writing session. So you're going to be asked to wait outside, and they're going to call you one by one into the room. Sometimes when you are in the last numbers, you're gonna have to wait at around 1 hour, I guess. But it really depends. Okay. So you have to be prepared that the speaking test is going to be a separate test from the rest. All right. So let's start about this the structure of IELTS speaking test. So the overall time you're gonna have to take is 15 minutes, and it will be divided into 3 sessions for IELTS speaking tasks. So you have session 1, session 2, and session 3. Each one of
Sorry,
them.
Miss. Excuse me, Miss. The screen is just white, or maybe there will be picture. So,
Okay, like I told you earlier, actually the screen is supposed to be not white.
oh, sorry, Miss. I think you want to like write down in the white like that.
Okay, let me try to reshare the screen. Okay, can you see my phone screen now?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
right. Okay, so here's the screen.
yes, yes.
Okay,
Thank
right.
you, Miss.
You're welcome. Like I told you earlier, overall we're gonna have 15 minutes. So we have 3 sessions, and we're gonna divide those 15 minutes into each 5 minutes. I put the estimate here, more or less 5 minutes for each sessions, because that includes the part where the examiner talk, chit chat with you, aside from the real test. Okay. And then take notes. Remember that this is not job interview. Okay. IELTS test is not a job interview. You don't have to wear clothes that is very formal. Of course not. And then you don't have to retain eye contact. You don't have to look at the interviewer in the eyes, or you have to mind your gesture. It's not important. The point of IELTS speaking test is for them to evaluate your speaking ability in English. Okay, and that's it. So they won't care about what you wear. They don't care about whether you give them eye contact. They don't care whether you are smiling a lot or not. Okay, so this is not a job interview. This is not uh, English debating or English speech competition. Okay, so the point is they want to know your skill in speaking English and how fluent you are in it, and then how easy to understand your story is going to be. Also, it won't matter what accent that you're going to use. Like, for example, you want to study in Australia, you don't have to use Australian accents. You want to study in America, you don't have to use American accents. You want to study in England or in Germany, you don't have to use their accent. Just use your natural English speaking accent. Because if you make something up, then it's going to stop you from talking fluently, because you're going to think twice to talk. Okay, so keep everything natural. They don't care about your accent, they only care about the English that you are using. Also, right, I told you earlier that this is going to be a separate test from listening, reading, and writing. Okay, right. Let's start with session 1. So let's imagine the examiner, the person who's going to test you, they are sitting in a room. Okay, and you are waiting outside with another people who's also taking the IELTS test. So your name is being called. Like, for example, your name is Budi. Mr. Budi, come to the room, please. Okay, so Budi enter the room, and then you don't have to knock the door. You don't have to be very polite. You don't need that. Just try to be common. Of course, you need to be polite, but don't be overly polite. This is not the job interview. Okay, so you come inside and then you greet them like good morning, good afternoon, hello, and then they will ask you to have a seat in front of them usually, and then they will ask for your full name and your identification. For example, your passport or your identification card, KTP. Yeah, they want to match the data that they have with your identification. So afterwards, on speaking session 1, they're going to start asking you questions about your daily life. So you don't have to understand whether you will be able to answer this question or not. You will be able to answer these questions because this is a very common basic questions. So they will give you around 12 questions based on 3 topics. So like let's say you divide this 12 into 3, like so maybe for each topics you got 4 questions. Okay, and the question is going to be about yourself, about your life in your city, and about your country. You need to remember, you don't have to be very honest. You can lie, but you need to be careful. I say this because some people, they don't know about, for example, let's say the question is about what is the oldest place in your city? Okay, that is the example of a question. What is the oldest place in your city? That is the question. And let's say you don't know the answer because you don't really know your city. You have 2 options to answer this. You can be honest. You can say, I'm sorry, but I don't think I know the oldest place in the city because I don't really pay attention. Okay? That's you being honest. The second option is you lie and you say, I think the oldest place in my city, which is in Palembang, is the Ampera Bridge, I guess, because it has been built for so many years, even before my grandfather was born. Okay? So, technically speaking, when you lie, they won't know. Okay? Since they're probably from Australia and they're from New Zealand, or maybe they're from another country, they don't know the culture, they don't know the history of your city. So it's okay for you to lie. But there is a but here. There is a note. If you want to lie, make sure that you are able to do it properly. Okay? Like, for example, I think I'm used to lie, so I'm gonna lie like that. But if you cannot lie, you have to be honest because there is no right or wrong answer in Ielts test, in speaking test. Okay, in Ielts speaking test, there is no right or wrong answer. What they care about is whether you answer your answer is in sync with the question. Artinya nyambung ya. Okay, and whether you can deliver your answer in proper English. Okay, so it's okay if you don't know the oldest place in Palembang, but you have to tell the examiner in English. Like I told you earlier, the honest version, okay? The honest version is, I don't think I know the oldest building in Palembang or in my city because honestly, I don't really care about the history. And I think maybe I'm gonna study about it afterwards, after I come back from here. Okay? So you still got a score there for your English. They're not gonna say, oh, she doesn't know this place, she got low score. No, you won't get low score if you don't know the oldest place in Palembang. Okay? So it's up to you whether to lie or to be honest. But if you want to be honest, you have to be able to answer it in proper English. And if you want to lie, make sure that you are able to lie properly. Okay, because some of my students, they tried to lie, but they cannot do it. And in the end, they cannot answer the question. Okay, so try to keep in mind which one do you want to choose. So here are the common topics that you are going to get for speaking part 1. Starting from, for example, questions about work are questions for people who are already working, like me. If you are still in college, they're probably going to ask you about your study. Or in high school, they're going to ask you about your study, not about your work. And then there are also questions about hometown. They're going to ask you about your hometown. Once again, try to answer properly according to your memories, according to your experience. So there is no need to use other people's experience. Make it your experience. And then questions about home. These are probably questions about how comfortable you are with your home and whether it's close to your school or something like that. And then others is about art, about birthdays. Birthdays, for example, questions about whether you celebrate your birthday, what did you get from your last birthday, something like that. Okay, and then about your childhood, about your experience, whether you like your childhood or not, whether you have friends during your childhood. Okay, so all of these questions are things that you probably has experienced, most probably has experienced before. Also, if they question about pets and then you answer no, I don't have pets, the examiner will probably move on to another topic for things that you have. Okay, so you don't have to worry, because all of these topics are things that we can see in our daily life and that we have experienced. So there is no question about chemistry, physics, biology. There is no question about that. Okay, so that's speaking part 1. You're going to have around 12 questions on 3 topics, which means that you're probably going to get, maybe you're going to get about study, you're going to get about childhood, and you're going to get about hobbies or another. So it's random, but it's still around these topics. Okay, so that's part 1 or session 1. And then we're going to move on to session 2. So before you look at the screen, try to close your eyes and imagine, okay, you just finished session 1. And then the examiner told you, okay, that's the end of session 1. Let's start with session 2. And then they will give you a card, a large card, I think about the size of your smartphone. And in the card are written questions. Okay, so look at the screen. So in here is like the size of your phone, and then it's called topic cards. It contains the questions that you're going to have to answer. So this is going to be different from session 1. In session 1, it's just question and then you answer. Question and then you answer. It's like an interview. But in session 2, they will give you a topic card which contains of questions that you have to answer. And then the examiner will tell you that you will be given 1 minute to prepare all of the answers for those questions. Okay? You will be given a topic card. You will have 1 minute to prepare your talk. And then afterward, they will stop the timer, okay, for 1 minute. And then they will tell you that you will need to speak for 1 to 2 minutes to answer all of these questions. Okay, so when they're giving you the topic card, you have to start preparing as soon as you are given the card, paper, and the pen. So the examiner will give you this. You don't have to worry about bringing your own paper. The examiner will let you know when to start talking. So, these are the time where you should start talking. Keep talking as long as you can. Most topics are stories about yourself or something that happened in your life. Okay? Let's do this part by part, slowly. First, you will be given topic card, and then they will set the timer. Remember that you will always have to follow the examiner's timer. Before they ask you to start, do not start. When they ask you to stop, then stop. Okay? In the 1 minute, what do you have to do? Should you write all of your answers? No. 1 minute will not be enough. Okay? So just write important points, just the points of what you are going to answer. Okay? Like for example, the question is about vacation. First point you say how transportation, and then the second point is who I go with, and then the third one where I go to. Usually gonna have to use are there 5? Okay, when, who, where, what, why, and one. H is how, right? Usually those are the answers depending on the topic. So only write the main points here. Okay, and then they will say, okay, your 1 minute is up now. Time for you to answer all of these questions for 1 to 2 minutes, starting from now. When they say now, they start the timer, then you have to start talking. Okay, you are explaining, telling a story based on those questions that you answers. This time is an estimate. Okay, 1 to 2 minutes is a long time to talk if you are not used to, especially if you are quite an introvert and don't talk much. But trust me that you will be able to do it. I am not an extrovert person. And how can I talk for 1 hour straight, right? Me, your tutor. It's because I have to do it. I have to have a topic to say. Okay, so if I can do it, then you can do it too. But there is a rule here. Okay, look at the screen here. I'm gonna zoom it. Okay, they tell you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. If you are talking for less than 1 minute, of course your score will be low. Okay, but we compare these two. You're answering 1.5 minutes, 1 minute and 30 seconds. We compare it with you're talking for a full 2 minutes. If you're talking for 1.5 minutes, but you are talking smoothly without saying, without pausing, you will get better score compared to when you are wasting 2 minutes, but full of pausing and stuttering. 2 minutes full of your thinking, I don't, or you're just being quiet for 2 minutes. That's not gonna help your score. You have to speak, okay? So it's better to talk for less than 2 minutes, but you speak smoothly. However, I always train my students to talk for a full 2 minutes until I have to stop them. So as long as I'm not stopping them from talking, they have to keep talking. Okay. So if you want to practice yourself and time yourself up, you have to start your timer and put it aside. Maybe you have it on a countdown timer, on a timer, you set the timer for 2 minutes, which will set the alarm after the 2 minutes up. You can do that with your phone. And then you have to talk in English for as long as possible until the timers goes off. That's how you train yourself to talk for more than 2 minutes. Another question comes. Okay, Miss, what if I don't answer all of the questions, but the time is already up? It's already 2 minutes, but I have not answered all of the questions. The answer is, it's okay. You don't have to answer everything. Okay? You don't have to answer all of the questions. You just have to try to answer all of them. Try and speak English, because that is the point. So if you've been talking about everything for 2 minutes, but you still have not answered the question number 4, and the time is already up, you don't have to worry. All that you have to worry about is your pronunciation and whether your English is coherent, which means that your English is easy to understand, and whether you are using the proper grammar there, and whether you're using a correct vocabularies. Okay? So yeah. The tips. Make sure, usually when we are talking about speaking and you are given timer, people have the tendency to speak quickly. It's like, what are you chasing? Right? What are you chasing? If you are talking too fast, then you will run out of topic quickly. Like, for example, you have to talk everything about your holiday for 2 minutes, but you are talking so fast because you want to show that, hey, I am fluent, like that. Then you will be running out of topic when it's still 1 minute, and then you will panic. Okay? So make sure that you talk with a medium speed or pace, PACE, okay, or tempo. Make sure that you're talking like me right now, like we say in Indonesia, santai, but try not to be very santai. Jangan terlalu slow juga. Temponya biasa aja. Okay? The speed is medium, not too fast and not too slow. And it is forbidden for you to not speak at all. Also, not properly preparing for points. You don't have to pay attention to this right here. It means that it has something to do with your notes here. Okay, so you will be given a paper to write your points, right? You have to properly write it in a way that you can understand when you are reading them again. Because if you don't prepare it properly, you will probably get lost in your own notes. Like, for example, you are doing exam at school, right? And then you're preparing a cheat note, kertas contekan, and you don't understand what you're writing, then you won't be able to use it, right? So try to make it as simple as possible, and then not detailing enough. Okay, this is one of the reasons why people cannot talk for 2 minutes straight. It's because they're not detailing the story enough. For example, the question is about how you travel to holiday. Like, for example, how you travel to your last holiday. Some people will answer, I travel by plane. And that's it. It's only one sentence, right? And it's very short. Compared to people who answers like this. I travel by plane. I got a flight from these airlines. Like, for example, I fly by plane. I got from Garuda Airlines, and I have a seat near the window, which is my favorite. And the plane at that time was very on time, so we don't have to wait for so long at the airport. And the weather was very nice at the time, so we don't have much turbulence. Okay, so those are more sentences than the first one, right? That's how you detail your experience. So make sure that you gave I'm sorry. So make sure that you give lots of details about the questions. So you will, when you give lots of details, you're gonna come out with more vocabularies and then more time to waste. Okay. And the next thing that you need to pay attention to is your grammar use. Remember, if the question is about your experience, it must be something that you have already done, right? So make sure that you are using past tense. Okay? Make sure that you are telling the story in past tense. That is about experience. Okay, let us do a simulation with the type of question here. The topic is about hobby, and this is the question card. Let's say you are given this as your question card. This is the question. Describe an interesting hobby. So you use present tense here because it's not your experience, okay? You should say what is it or what it is. So the hobby is, for example, reading. Reading, what is it that you read? So you detail it even more. Magazine, novel, lesson book, biography. You can detail it even more by giving the example of the name or the genre. Let's say reading, you choose novel. The genre of the novel is detective or romance or science fiction, etc. And you can even detail it even more to the author. Okay? And so on. And the next question, what kind of people doing it? Who do you think likes reading? Introverted people maybe? Or romantic person? Or maybe people who like their alone time? And then how is this hobby done? You just have to explain how you read a book. Let's say buy or borrow the book, and then find comfortable place, right? Comfortable. Try not to use slang, I guess, because a vocabulary score, it's not going to be decreased, but it will help you if you are using more common vocabularies. But in writing, remember writing on our last meeting, in writing you are not allowed to write in slang. In speaking, yes, you're still allowed to, but don't use so many slangs. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the question. How is it done? You have to buy or borrow the book and find comfortable place, and then you just read. Okay. And then the last question, explain why you think this hobby is interesting. You have your own reason. Let's say that because it will train imagination. Okay, I write it like this without proper grammar is how we write on the notes on this paper that is given to you. So within 1 minute, we have to do this, okay? And why you think it is interesting? Because it will train your imagination, because you'll be able to experience things that you have not experienced before and will not probably experience. You can travel the world by reading without really going there, okay? Okay, so I think that is less than 1 minute. We prepare for these answers. And then they will stop the timer for 1 minute, and then you have to explain all of this. Okay, let's say me, I'm as an examiner, I say, okay, Mr. Budi, your time is up for 1 minute. So now you can start explaining your answers for 1 to 2 minutes. Your timer will start now. Me as Budi will answer. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Okay, we're gonna talk about interesting hobby. I think an interesting hobby is for me is reading. Like for example, you can read magazines, you can read novels, or you can read biography. Some people also like reading lesson books, I guess. Me myself, I like the genre of, sci-fi or detective stories, thriller, something like that. I don't really like reading about romances, because it's just not my things, but I guess some people like it. Also, there are so many authors from my country and from international, they are so famous and they're very good at writing, but I cannot list you the writers one by one here. But my favorite author is Agatha Christie. Yeah, she's a writer for a detective story. And also, I think the kind of people who will do this hobby, people who likes reading, I guess, usually people like me who are more introverted, but it doesn't mean that people who are extroverted don't like reading books. But I think most people who are introverted like reading books based on my own experience. So I can't tell that this is a exact things. Also, I think people who likes to use their imagination, artistic people likes to read, also people who likes to spend their time alone, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's kind of people who likes to read. And then how to do this hobby, I guess, well, you can get books, whether by borrowing it, whether by buying it, I guess, from the bookstores. It's up to you. If you don't have money to spend, maybe you can borrow it from the local library from your city. You can borrow it from the library from your school. There are so many libraries around us. It's just that um, we have to know how and when to access it, I guess. Also, I think reading is interesting because first, I think it will train my imagination in a way that when I read something, I try to picture it in my head how the event's going. Like, for example, in the book, they write something about a war, and in my head, I am imagining a big place, a large lands full of people having war. And I can see the colors, I can see the people and their weapons and the noise. So it helps me with my imagination. And the second one, I think it's useful for you if you cannot travel to another city or country because you have your limitations. And by reading books, like let's say that you read Dan Brown's books, you know, he wrote a book about Italy, and he detailed Italy very well in his book. And when reading it, it feels as if I really went to Italy. Okay. Okay, I guess that's it, my answer, right? So that is the example of how to answer speaking session 2. Miss, I'm afraid that I won't have the vocabulary like you. Don't worry. You will find the vocabulary if you practice. First, you have to practice so many times so that you are going to get used to talking in English, and then you're going to improve your vocabularies. And also make sure that your speed is medium, because if you are calm, ideas will come easily to you. If you're panicking, your mind will be blocked. Okay? So it's actually psychological, right? So that's it about speaking session 2. It's going to be a short time, right? So basically effective time is going to be about 3 to 4 minutes only. Let's say here you have 1 minute and here 2 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, right? Okay. And this is also the example of questions. This example is about experience, so you will use a lot of past tense here. Like, they already give you hint that you are going to use past tense. Here, a place you have recently, meaning that you already visited. past tense, right? Then where you went, that's past tense. Who you went with, how you got there, enjoyed, those are all past tense. Okay, describe a place that you visited recently. So it's about traveling or tourism, and where you went. You say Bali, but you have to explain again what is Bali and why it is interesting. Okay, and then who you went with. You can explain about these people that you go with. Like for example, I went to Bali with my family, which contains of my parents, my father, my mother, and with my siblings. I have two brothers, and so on, etc. Gitu ya. And then the third question, how you got there, like the example that I gave you earlier about transportation that you used, like by plane, but you have to elaborate and give detail about it. About the plane, about the situation at the plane, situation when you are taking the flight, what kind of airlines, and where you are sitting. And the last question is explain why you enjoyed going to Bali. I think this is a personal answers. Okay, so you can practice by yourself later on by using these questions. You can use another place aside from Bali. Okay, so in speaking part 2, I'm not advising you to lie. Okay, try not to lie, because based on experience, my student who are taking Ielts test and he lied in these questions, he got lost. He got confused by his own lie because he's not used to it. So make sure that you are not lying. Double the work. It will double the work. Okay? Lebih capek kalian. Right. And after you finish speaking part 2 and the 2 minutes already done, but you still have something to talk, and you say, I'm traveling to Bali, and then the examiner will say, okay, stop, your time is up. Then you have to stop. Okay, let's move on to speaking part 3. So speaking part 3 is more of a discussion with the examiner. It's similar with speaking part 1, but in part 1, you only have to answer each question with 1 or 2 or 3 sentences, right? Short answers. But in speaking session 3, one question you have to answer by explaining your opinion, for example, your choice and your reasons. It's like writing task 2, but in verbal. Okay, you speak it instead of writing it. Here, in speaking part 3, the examiner will ask a broader range of questions. Pertanyaan dengan range yang lebih luas based on the topic that you had in speaking part 2. So let's say in speaking part 2, you have a question about hobby. You're gonna be asked about hobby also in session 3. And in this one, if you're asked about travel, you're gonna be asked about traveling in session part 3. Okay, so it's a continuation, kelanjutan dari session 2. The questions require you to expand your answers further with explanations and examples of the world in general. The examiner will strictly control the time. Okay, so the examiner will control the time. If they stop you from talking, don't get mad. Okay, don't feel irritated. Jangan tersinggung. They stop you means that they already got the answer that they want. Okay, so try to focus on answering only. So these are the types of questions that you're going to get for speaking session 3. The questions are whether philosophical or about your opinion about something. It's kind of almost serious kind of question. Like you can see here, education, what makes a good student? So it is your own opinion. I think what makes a good student is their manner in general to everyone, to their teachers, to their friends, to their parents. And then a good student is also a student who they don't have to really have the highest score in class, but they need to show that they are trying, blah 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 gitu ya. Jadi you answer it by explaining your opinion about it, and so on. Then question about internet, for example. Do most people have a computer at home in your country? So you don't have to answer it. Yes, they do. No, they don't. No, you're not allowed to answer it just by that. This kind of question, you answer it by, do most people have a computer at home in your country? I think most people in my country have a computer at home because it's already 2021 and everything is already high tech, so people don't actually use TV anymore, so they're more focused on things like smartphones, and I guess that includes computer at home, maybe for them to do Zoom meetings, for their parents to work, and for the children to study, and it has become a culture and become a part of our daily life in Indonesia, in my country. Gitu. Jawabannya kan cukup panjang tuh. Okay? The answer is quite long. So try to answer like that. Try to explain things in detail. Okay, let's see the questions about travel. Ini contoh kelanjutan pertanyaan yang tadi, session 2. Why do some people prefer to travel abroad rather than in their own country? So there is a statement that some people prefer, lebih suka, travel abroad, ke luar negeri, rather than, daripada their own country, daripada traveling di dalam negaranya sendiri. So it has to be based on your experience or something that you have already seen. You don't have to tell the examiner where you get information. No, this is not thesis exam. Ini bukan ujian skripsi. So you don't have to answer your sources. Gak usah dijawab sumbernya dari mana, gitu ya. So yeah, you have to explain. Like for example, if I have to answer this question, why do some people prefer to travel abroad rather than in their own country? I think some people likes to travel abroad is for them to be able to experience things that they cannot experience in their own country. For example, the weather, because if you go anywhere in Indonesia, you only get whether it's raining or sunny. Okay, so some people maybe want to experience snow or autumn, so that's why they want to travel abroad. Also, maybe they want to experience culinary. They want to try foods that is not from Indonesia, so that's why they go abroad to experience it firsthand. Like, for example, even though we have Korean restaurants in Indonesia, people say that the taste is different if you really get the Korean food exactly from Korea. So I guess that's why some people likes to travel abroad compared to travel in our own country. Also, another answer is rather about how the government maintain the traveling places. In Indonesia, some traveling places are naturally beautiful, but because of the government don't really pay attention to take care of them, so the facilities are not very convenient for us. So if we compare it to traveling facilities in some other country, their government care more about it, and etc. Blah blah blah, gitu ya. Kayaknya jawabannya sangat panjang, and the examiner probably gonna cut you there if they already get your point, and they will move on to the next questions. Okay, so that's how you answer those questions. Also, you have to try to understand these types of questions, like what is white collar, blue collar jobs. You can look it up. Okay, so that is the end of this speaking session. It's very short. I'm going to send a video example to Fala. Video example for speaking sessions. Of course, I will not find the best kind of video. I will find the decent, yang sedang-sedang aja, example video for you to watch how it feels when they are actually doing the whole test. Okay, so I will wrap this up by sum it up. I will summarize what we have been talking about. So, speaking test in IELTS, you have to spend around 15 minutes. So it contains 3 sessions. In session 1, the question is about short Q&As. So 12 questions, and you answer it right away at around 1 to 3 sentences per question, and then you're going to have to spend about 5 minutes. And then section 2 is a monologue kind of thing. So they will give you a topic card. You have to prepare the answer for 1 minute, and then you have to answer for 2 minutes, and it's more or less 5 minutes overall. And session 3 is the continuation of the topic of session 2. So it's a discussion, questions from the examiner, and you have to answer the questions in longer sentences compared to the session 1. And it has more or less 5 minutes. In total, it's about 15 minutes. All right, so I think that's it, the material for today. I give this back to the moderator or the MC. Thank you. If anyone have any questions, you can ask it.
Okay, thank you for Miss Poppy for the material and explanation. It is so great and help us to learn more about IELTS. So now we are moving to question and answer session. For all of you who wanted to ask Miss Poppy about our class today, please raise your hand or unmute your microphone, and you can drop your question in chat box. Anyone? Is there any question?
I'm sorry, I think you have to give them time limit to give questions. Like for example, for 2 minutes, if more than 2 minutes they're not giving question, then we have to end the session.
Okay, Miss. Okay, maybe we can wait until 2 minutes or 3 minutes for the question. Yeah, Miss?
Yes.
You can unmute your microphone or drop your question in chat box. Okay, Miss Poppy, there is the question in chat box from Nur Khalifa.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna read it. She's wondering, Nurkolva is wondering how I practice for speaking test and whether I have followed any course or not. Okay, this is just my experience, so it doesn't mean that you have to follow my step because people have different approach on studying and practicing. Personally, I practice by myself. I didn't take any course because I guess I have done conversation classes in high school. Yeah, so I have been practicing my speaking since high school, but not regularly. And also, I practice my listening and speaking by conversing with my friends that I found from international forum. So we do some Skype talking. So basically, you have to practice speaking with your friend. Like, for example, you have ESC here, right? And you can have your own sessions of conversation day, for example, and then you decide a topic for that day, and you and your friend just talk about that topic for 45 minutes, for 1 hour maybe. So that's how you practice your speaking, I guess. You have to have another person to talk to. I guess that's it. Whether I'm answering your question or not, itu jawabannya.
Thank you, Miss Poppy, for your answer. For Nur Khalifa, how the answer?
Does it answer your question? Okay. You said it's enough. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question, Miss?
Yes, who's that?
So I am Paladina, Miss. Thank you for the opportunity, firstly. So as we know that the price of IELTS test is expensive enough, do you have any suggestion on the maybe an account in social media to practice our IELTS skill, or maybe take a prediction test of IELTS? Thank you, Miss.
Okay, Fala, very good questions. Same like Nur Khalifa earlier. So, yes, the test is, I think it's about 2.9 million rupiah, almost 3 million rupiah because of the currency. Mahal, yeah. So, you don't have, I'm not suggesting you to take the test right away unless you are very confident. If you want to practice by yourself, you can do it at home by using the website, but it is limited to only listening and reading because you can check your answer keys, right? But it is hard to get an evaluation on writing and speaking. The only way that you can get evaluation on writing and speaking is by taking English course di tempat kursus, ya. If you want to get an examination regularly, ya, kalau mau regular dapat penilaian dari gurunya. But if you just need a prediction test, you can do it at where I'm teaching. I'm not going to promote the place here. You can ask me personally in my chat. Bisa ambil prediction test yang harganya tentu sangat jauh lebih murah dibandingkan kalian tes yang sebenarnya. Ya, jadi itu karena dinilai nanti di keempat sesinya. They're gonna grade your listening, your reading, your speaking, and your writing. And it will be like prediction, of course. Gitu. Jadi akan jadi prediksi nilainya. However, it's not 100% accurate. Like for example, me grading my student, I always tell them that if you got 7 from me, you're probably gonna get 6.5 in the real test. Gitu. Kalau kalian dapat 7 dari saya, kalian mungkin di real testnya bakal dapat 6,5. Karena examiner biasanya penilaiannya lebih ketat daripada tutor. Gitu ya. So, itu lebih ke prediksi, estimasi juga. Prediction test ini. Berbayar di luar ya, berbayar memang, tapi hasilnya mendekati, sangat mendekati gitu dari tes yang sebenarnya. Kalau latihan online sendiri, cuma bisa dapat listening and speaking. Tapi kalau mau, Miss, aku mau intensif nih, pengen dinilai terus, ya mau nggak mau harus kursus buat dapat penilaian di writing sama speakingnya. Itu kayak misalnya, for example, you really want to get IELTS score, gitu, to apply for scholarship, for example, gitu ya. You have to take the course, I guess, if you think that you are not confident enough to get 7 in IELTS test. Gitu. Tapi prediction score ini tidak bisa dibawa untuk jadi syarat ya. Prediction score ini bukan kayak prediction TOEFL. Prediction TOEFL masih bisa dipakai untuk melamar ke sekolah Kapolri, bisa kayaknya. Tapi kalau prediction IELTS tidak bisa digunakan untuk mendaftar ke universitas. Harus pakai IELTS resmi. Prediction IELTS cuma untuk try out. Sorry jawabannya agak panjang, tapi semoga menjawab. Voilà. There is another question from Febia Hanisha. To apply for a scholarship abroad, we need a high IELTS score. Question is, how long will it take to prepare to study IELTS to apply for a scholarship? Okay, how long does it take you to prepare to study IELTS? It depends on your own skill. But the best time is maybe you have to prepare, the longer, the better. For 1 year, I think is adequate if you are focusing. Kalau kalian fokus, 1 tahun itu cukup. Sangat bagus. Kalau 6 bulan itu cukup lah. Itu asalkan intensif. I'm not suggesting that you study it 1 month before you taking the test. Terlalu mendadak. Jadi 6 bulan pun menurut saya masih mendadak. Jadi 1 tahun. So, while you are in your position right now, kalian misalnya tahun berapa kuliah nih? Masih tahun kedua atau tahun ketiga ya? Itu saat yang tepat untuk kursus atau mulai latihan. Gitu ya. Iya. Semoga menjawab pertanyaannya Febia. Gitu. Jadi, belajarnya dari sekarang. Semakin cepat dimulai, semakin bagus. Tapi, tesnya, the real test, you have to do it like, I think around 6 months at least. Pokoknya waktunya yang terdekat sebelum kalian daftar ke beasiswa atau university-nya. Karena kita harus ada kalkulasi waktu jadwal tes, dapatnya jadwal yang bulan berapa, sama kapan hasil tesnya keluar. Biasanya kan 14 hari kerja, atau 21 hari kerja, I forgot. Oh, Febia Anisha is already in 7th semester. This is the correct time for you to start taking the course actually. Gak apa-apa. I think it's very ideal for you to start right now. Gitu ya. Jadi 7th semester, 8th semester, and after you graduate, hopefully, you take prediction test, and then you can start to apply. Okay? Any more question? All right, you're welcome, Feby.
Okay, Miss Poppy, thank you for the answer. Anyone? Is there any question? Okay, Miss, I think it seems that no one who wants to ask again.
Yes.
And okay, so thank you for all of the question, and also thanks to Miss Poppy for the answers. Now, please fill the attendance in link that I have shared in a chat box. And don't forget to screenshot our meeting to prove that you have joined the class. That is our class today. Again, I would say thank you so much for Miss Poppy for the material and explanation. And thank you for all of member of ELC that all are already attending our meeting today. That's all for today. I apologize if there are some mistakes in our meeting. Good evening, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
I'm
Miss
going to
Poppy.
send the material to Falah later on. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Miss Poppy. You all may leave the meeting. Thank you.